The unofficial homepage of the ultra-right conservative movement has taken their loathing of President Obama to the legal limit. Quickly, just to review, the extra right-wing website WorldNet Daily has loudly banged the birther drum, baselessly claiming that President Obama is secretly a Kenyan. He's a Manchurian candidate who's technically not really president. They also sounded the health reform is a secret plot to kill your grandmother alarm. They warned that the White House is spying on your Facebook page. Spooky. Also unfounded. WorldNet Daily also implied that the president's speech to school kids was part of a plan to form the equivalent of the Hitler Youth Brigade, and they suggested that a Democratic proposal to beef up relief efforts during natural disasters was actually a plan to round up and imprison the president's critics, calling this secret plot an opportunity to form, and I quote, concentration camps for political dissidents, such as occurred in Nazi Germany. Once you've gone all those places, where can you still legally go that's further? Well, Sam Stein at Huffington Post reported today that WorldNetDaily.com has added to its repertoire the idea that President Obama should be impeached. Now, their exact claim goes, quote, the groundswell of calls for the impeachment of Barack Hussein Obama is growing. Can you feel the groundswell? This latest claim, like all of the preceding nonsensical charges from WorldNet Daily, would be purely dismissible, except the Republican National Committee appears to have recently paid for access to the WorldNet Daily email list. The Republican Party sees these guys as their peeps. And the guy leading the recent Impeach Obama campaign is not a teenage Karl Rove wannabe working on a prank on his Commodore 64. It's a man named Floyd Brown. Floyd Brown is a Republican operative who has served on the Republican National Convention Platform Committee. His resume includes the famous race-baiting Willie Horton ad from the 1988 presidential campaign and the independent campaign ad attempting to tie then-Senator Obama to gang violence in Chicago. The Willie Horton and Obama gang violence ad-making Republican activist also credits himself with saving President Reagan's ranch for posterity and overseeing the building of the Reagan Ranch Center in Santa Barbara, California. He was also the Midwest director for Senator Bob Dole's presidential campaign. In other words, he's not a nobody trying to make his bones in the conservative movement by doing something outrageous to the point of being funny. This guy is Republican establishment with a capital R and a capital E. And he's running the Impeach Obama Now movement. Joining us now is Melissa Harris-Lacewell, Associate Professor of Politics and African American Studies at Princeton University. She's also a contributor to The Nation. It's good to see you, Melissa. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Good to be here.
So WorldNet Daily has already turned the Impeach Obama idea into a merchandising opportunity. For just $5.95, you can get an Impeach Obama bumper sticker at their superstore. Do you think they're a little premature here?
Well, you know, it's as though they forget that we have elections. I mean, it really is fine to disagree with the president. It's even fine to disagree vehemently with the president. It's even okay to believe that the president is lying or passing bad policy. But we do, in fact, have a regular process in this country for coping with these kinds of concerns. It's called elections. We'll have a midterm election where the Republicans can run candidates from their party against the Democrats all across the country in congressional races and Senate races and mayoral campaigns and gubernatorial campaigns. I mean, we don't actually have to impeach the people we disagree with. We can simply actually engage as Americans in the democratic process and vote against them.
I think that we ought to impeach people when they act unconstitutionally and there aren't other remedies against them. It's one of those things that I think is one of sort of the beautiful things among our constitutional powers. The question is whether or not President Obama has really led the country to the point where impeachment proceedings should be ready to begin. And what it says about the conservative movement and really the Republican Party, that they've gone right to impeachment in month 10 of the Obama administration.
Well, you know, it occurred to me because a lot of folks will ask me, I'm sorry, why do Americans believe this? Why do ordinary people believe that, you know, Barack Obama is somehow associated with Nazis or with fascism or with socialism? And it is possible that members of the Republican Party have grown used to experiencing things that seem outrageous, and then it turns out that they're absolutely true. Take, for example, a member of Congress sending lewd emails to underage congressional pages, or a Republican governor claiming to be hiking the Appalachian Trail when in fact he's in Argentina with his girlfriend. Or imagine something as insane as the Secretary of State telling us that there's an enemy state with weapons of mass destruction and that we have a national interest in invading that sovereign nation. And in each one of those cases, those things that seem completely outrageous that could happen, in fact, it turns out that it does happen. So maybe the Republicans are sort of primed for believing that the outrageous is true.
And so we've sort of one-upped ourselves in terms of our credulity, right? That we have to keep topping ourselves in terms of our allegations, in terms of making an impact. And so you should go right to impeachment, and who knows what comes after that, in order to get people to pay attention.
Well, I mean, part of this here is that what the right is trying to do is regain a particular space for telling what the American story is. You know, one thing that the Obama candidacy did beautifully that the Obama administration has not done as well is to frame their agenda within kind of a longer tradition of the American story. So we remember it best in the Obama campaign as being that yes, we can speech, where he talks about westward movement and the end of slavery and sort of women getting the right to vote and laborers getting fair labor practices. And he sets his own campaign within that context so that Americans can say, oh, this is part of the American story. What's happened now is that the right is trying to regain that foothold, being able to tell sort of a different American narrative. And so the story they want to tell is a story of kind of populist revolt against totalitarian regimes. And so in this story, they're framing the Obama presidency, the Obama administration, as the totalitarian regime, and themselves as the leaders of a populist revolt. So part of what the left has to do is to really regain that capacity to tell a different American story.
Melissa Harris-Lacewell, Associate Professor of Politics and African American Studies at Princeton University. You're wicked smart. Thanks for joining us, Melissa. It's great to see you.
Thank you.